Hello, in this video we start taking a look at the various tools that we have in MoI. In this first video we'll take a look at the first two panels and in the next one the other two. Let's start with the draw curve panel. The first tool is the lines. We have two options, line and polyline. Line just create a single line, so left click and left click. You can also check the both sides option and it will create the line in both directions. You also have the polyline, which is the one I use the most, and the polyline basically allows you to create multiple lines one after the other, and right click to confirm. Freeform is used to create smooth curves. So we have various options, control points, which basically is like a Bezier curve. So if I left click and left click again, as you can see, I can choose the angle of my curve like this. Right click, and if I left click on this and enable the show points with the P key or click here, I can select the various points and move them, and then P key again to hide it. Use the make corner point feature, and this will create a straight line after I click. So as you can see, it made this straight point. Then we have a true points option. So left click, pick start point, and it's different because if you notice, the curve starts where I left click with the mouse. It goes into the point here. So if I do something like this, as you notice, the curve follow the mouse. And then we have sketch, which is freeform sketching like this. Let's jump to the rectangle. Very easy. I'm not going to show you all this option because they are self-explanatory. I used the from center because I think it's the most useful in many cases. You also have the option rounded corners that will apply a fillet to it. So from center, let's pick, I don't know, like the origin, and it will create the rectangle like this, or we can make it a square if we have the straight snap enabled, and it will lock it on a 45-degree angles. If you enable the rounded corners, it will create first the rectangle, and then if you notice, if I move the mouse, it will create the fillet, or you can type it here like 0.02, and it made the fillet very small because I chose a very small value. Then we have the polygon, which allows you to create different polygonal curves. From center, edge, and star. From center, pick center point, and we have a pentagon because we chose 5 sides. Let's say I want 8, and I have this octagon here. If you notice, my mouse is locked on one of the vertices, but if I left click on circumscribed, it will be locked on the middle section between 2 points or 2 vertices. Left click to confirm. Edge, well, it is self-explanatory. You simply left click and then choose the other point. And of course you can lock it where you want. Star, it will make a polygonal star. You can choose the sides. Let's say I don't know, 12, and you have this result here. 6 or 3. You have this nice looking ninja star, and this is it for the polygonal tool. Circles, very simple. You pick the center point, and this is it. You have many options here, and I will show you the tangent. So let's create another circle, maybe a little bit smaller. Let's choose the tangent. Pick first point on a curve. So for let's say this one. Pick second point, this one, and it will create the circle tangent to the two other circles. Left click to confirm. Then we have the arc. Pick center of arc, let's say this. Pick start of arc, this one, and end of arc, this one. You can make it elliptical if you want, okay, like this. Then you have the ellipse tool, which creates ellipses from center, diameter, or corners. So from center, pick center point, pick first axis, which will be the axis of rotation, basically, where you are going to create the ellipse. And then after deciding the width, you left click again. You also have from corners, pick corner point, this one, pick other corner, like this, and you have your ellipse or semicircle in this case. Then you have a more panel. You have point, let's create points. Let's enable the repeat command so we can create multiple points. This is useful if you want a point in space to lock it and perform certain operations like a transform or maybe a rotation, something like that. Then you have the helix. Pick start of axis. I'll choose my origin. Pick end of axis, let's say the Z. And start radius and anchor point. So the radius of our helix, let's say this, left click. Then you can choose the number of turns and then right click to confirm. Tonic, it's similar to the arc, but you can create it only through 3 points. So the start point, left click, end point, this one. Apex, which is the maximum height of your arc, left click, and then you choose the actual arc itself. You can make it going downside like this or upward like this. I'll make it let's say here, left click, and you have this kind of arc. Okay, now the draw solid panel, it's very easy. Plane, let's say from center, left click to choose the center point, left click again, and you have your plane. Then we have the other options, but they are very easy. I'll only show you the 3 points. So pick base point, this one, pick the width of your plane, left click again, and then the height, left click. Box, let's use the corners this time. I always use the from center because I think it's the best solution in many cases, but just to show you different options, let's use the corner. Pick corner point, left click, and then pick the other corner, left click, and then you do an extrusion like this. You simply move the mouse up and down and left click. You have your box. Then sphere, pick center point, left click and drag, and you have the sphere. Cylinder, base point, which means the base of your cylinder. So I will create it here, left click, pick the radius. You can always type it here, left click, and then the extrusion. Let's lock it on the Z axis like this, and simply left click. Then you have a cone, pick the base point, the radius, and then the height. Text, base point, let's say left click here, and you can type whatever you want. Let's say tutorial, the thickness, the height, create as solid surfaces or curves, let's say solids, align from left, center or right, let's say from the left, and it deleted my text. Okay, done. And now we have this text as individual solids. This is it for the creation panel. Let's jump to the edit view and select. Join allows you to combine multiple lines, surfaces that are one near the other. So for example, I will create this line and then another line starting from the first one. So left click again. If you notice, they are two separate lines, okay? They are not combined, but if I select them and press join, now they are one unique line. Separate will simply separate lines or surfaces at the intersection of the points. So if I press the P key, you can see that we have 1 point here, 1 point here, and 1 here. Obviously, here and here at the top ends, there is nothing, so they will stay here. But we have 1 point at the top that connect this line of the right with the line to the left. So if I select my line and then press the separate, they are now separated. Trim will cut objects and curves. You usually want to use it with curves. And let me create 2 circles real quick. Let's say I want to trim these circles. I will select the trim tool, select objects to trim this, right click, select cutting objects. So let's say only this circle, done. Select pieces to remove or push down to basically don't do anything. If you notice, I said that this small circle is the one I want to cut. In fact, I can now remove this part or this part because my cutting object is this big circle here. So if you notice, it goes through my small circle and it is dividing it into 2 parts, this on the top and this on the bottom. If I select, for example, this on the bottom and right click, now it is removed. However, I don't like this solution. What I like doing is a mutual trim. So let's say I want to, for example, cut this inner part, but also this part and this part. So how we can do that? We select all the objects, we press the trim button, press done for mutual trim. So I simply right click or press the done button, right click. Now I select the pieces to remove. Basically, the mutual trim will make every object that intersect with another object editable. All these circles are intersecting with each other, which means I can remove basically every part of it. So I will select this 2 mid parts, this and this one, right click, and now I have this result here. However, they are separate. So what I will do next, simply select everything and join. Obviously, I have set up the hotkeys for all these tools. If you have my custom setup, you can take a look at them here. Extend will extend a line like this, and select it, press extend, select boundary objects, circle. I select this circle, right click, and now my line is touching this circle I selected. Show points, I already talked about it. it will simply show the points of the selected objects like this. Add points will add a point to the selected object. So if I left click here, now a point is added here. Copy paste, you simply copy and paste the object, the classic Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, copy and paste, and you have a copy of this outer circle. Hide will hide the curve or the object. So let's say I want to hide this inner circle. I press hide and it's now hidden. If I press it again, it will show up. Lock will prevent the object from being editable, so I can't do anything with it. I can't even select it. If I press it again, it will become editable again. History is the construction history of your object, but I don't really understand how it works. If you are interested, you can look it up in the documentation, but I never use it. Let's go to the view panel. You have the reset all. So it's this button here to reset the view. Let's say you are up here. Let's simply reset, and here we go again at the center of the grid. You have the option display hidden lines, which is also here in the options menu, view, display hidden lines. If you toggle it on and off, take a look at the inside of this object. We have the constructions line inside. If I disable it, now you only have the surface itself. If I enable it, you can see the construction lines inside. Image allows you to load an image as a reference. You simply press the add button, like my wallpaper. Pick corner point. Let me jump to the front view. And you can scale it like this by simply dragging the mouse after selecting your corner, and it says pick other corner, so I left click. Then you have the draw options, which is used for displaying the image on top or under the solids. So if I move it here, I say below objects, now it is hidden by the solid, as you can see. If I say above objects, now it covers the whole solid because the image is larger. With objects, it will display both objects. However, the solids will be displayed as lines instead of full solids like in the below objects. Showing all views or only the orthographic. Let's say orthographic only. So as you can see, it is hidden in the 3D viewport, but if I select all views, now show up. Transparency, the transparency value, if I set it to 50%, it is half transparent. I'm ready. I can click on done or right click, and the image will be set up. I can't select it, but I can still edit it again. So if I left click on the image tool again, as you can see, we have Rivendell, which is this one. I can move it again and perform all the other operations, as well as remove it. C-plane allows you to move the grid wherever you want. It's very, very powerful. It's similar to the grid of Modo. So let's say you have this box, but it's rotated in a weird way. So now it is very hard to work symmetrically. What we can do is clicking on the C-plane, pick C-plane origin, the center, adjust axis orientation, press done, and now you have the grid exactly in the center and exactly on the face we selected. So we can, for example, choose our circle and snap it here and C-plane. Okay, the circle is exactly parallel to the grid. We create a rectangle here. It's very, very powerful. I don't use it often because I model all my objects from the center. If you model it from the center, and you don't move the objects around, you probably don't need this feature. But let's say you are making, I don't know, a very complex hard surface model like a Mac or a vehicle, then this is very useful. Reset the C-plane, select the tool again and click on Reset C-plane, and the grid will go back to the original state. Let's jump to the Select panel. Select all will select everything in your scene. Deselect all will deselect everything. And you also have invert selection. So I select the sphere, invert, and it will select every other object in your scene. Okay, so for this video is everything. In the next one we'll take a look at the construct, transform, sub-D and dimension panels. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed it. If it's the case, leave a like to support the channel, subscribe to stay up to date with the latest content. If you have any question, comment below, and I'll see you in the next one.